What happened here? It will still be accessible through the apartment next to it. That one didn't have a door. Sadly, nothing of great value remains here. Indeed.
Give me a moment. The cold never does any good for my bronchitis. I'm fine. Fine. Don't you worry about me. Now, what do you want from me, policeman?
She's the cleaning lady. She knows the floor plan and the residence.
Yes, yes. I know who you mean. The scrawny boy who's always smoking like the devil, right?
Somewhere in the building, a child starts crying. You hear a radio tuned to a talk show and someone taking a shower.
What's he in trouble for? Talk?
What was so funny about that?
He lives upstairs in room 28. Go to the balcony. It's one of those doors there. He's usually home in the evening.
Thank you. We should go check out his apartment on the balcony. See if he's home.
I'm no one. Just an old woman who cleans these hallways. If you can call it living. I have a little room upstairs right next to the coal room. It's barely bigger than a closet, but I don't complain, no. I have my bed and my aching bones to keep me company, and that's all I need from this world.
She hasn't spoken to anyone for a while. Even her sentences feel rusty.
Ask away, policeman. The hell am I supposed to know? Another nut job, I assume. People come and go. I don't keep an eye on everyone.
Probably just moved or died, hopefully somewhere else.
No one lives there. It's been empty for months. Impossible. I would know if someone had moved in there. Maybe it's those countercultural people again, breaking into a house like it's a public space. You're a policeman. Be good and take a look, will you? Great. Young people. They're worse than rats. You know, always littering the hallways with trinkets and empty beer cans. Some lunatic lost his mind. All kinds of morons pass through these halls. Oh, that one is a scientist, a future scholar. I think he studies astrology at the community college. Education's good. I always tell them to study. Something to do with all those stars around his door. He asked me to leave his drawings up on the wall. That's what I said. Astrology.
The lieutenant shakes his head, as though to say, let it go.
The artiste? Nothing I can do about her, I'm afraid. She ruins the walls faster than I can clean them. Still, she leaves an old lady to her business. More than I can say for others. Oh, no.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead. These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late. For the big time. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything. They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
We. She's one of them. Of course.
To foreign intervention, the coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights. The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people. The coalition of nations, Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-le-Clay, the armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do. The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now. This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
A devout man of the center. Hard to come by. It's good to have someone who takes a moderate approach to head shooting. In your line of work, I mean. Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
Yeah, it was a kerfuffle, all right.
Yes, the Insulindian deluge, they call it. Yes, an acute thiamine deficiency can be exacerbated by alcoholism. Exacerbated means made worse. Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad. Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Frissel got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time. The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end, nearly the whole world had gotten involved. It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Marzolf came along and overthrew the government. It made people overthrow their governments. Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
It was a funny time in history. They discovered transistors and rock music, but they didn't know anything about prions. Nobody did.
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end. Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control. A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the coalition of nations, and you, of course, the citizens' militia. The zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain and the commune. Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-eastlery communication, telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
"51 minus 8 equals 43.
Time flies. The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. '08 to 19 was simply hell. The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
All that untaxed income must have fueled the new. That can only mean one thing.
Yes, and quantitative easing. It was a market mirage, unfortunately. The 40s dispelled it. An Isola-wide hangover, you might say. So, here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
For her to be where she is, Wild Pines Group must have picked the right side.
They picked the winning side. That's why they're here, and others are not. Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way had I been in charge. I might have bet on the king and led the Pines to doom. I would have sided with the cannons. If you'd seen the calibers of the things, you might have too. Perhaps it's better I was born when I was. Ten of the 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Feld, Kupri, Tricentennial. So I suppose I would have been in good company. Good question. What would you have done differently? And I asked you, past less detective of the citizens' militia, What insight has acute encephalopathy given to you? And you would have died, most likely. Not far from here. Maybe even right here, during the beachhead, defending the coast the day the Coalition took the city. Good. Not that it would have mattered. In the end, the Commune forced everyone to the barricades. They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer.
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
She raises the corner of her mouth, smirking, revealing a canine.
An ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal. From the revolution. It's, not the moderate kind. Haven't you heard? I am a nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. One of those who pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. We surrendered the nation to the financier pirates. No sane person identifies as an ultra-liberal anymore. Not in broad daylight. You're a man of the left. A true communard. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, are you repulsed?
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride.
I hope you do. I hope we are able to continue as friends, despite my scales and my need to infiltrate and betray your precious revolution. Honestly, I may have even preferred it, had the communards won. Who knows? They might really have built something better. But they didn't, because they lost. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed. With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the Coalition. Not here in Martinez, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta beachheads either, if not for my own sake.
She realizes her small, cold fists are clenched. She loosens them.
Then for my daughters, we had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it. Perhaps my intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time. Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
Seditious talk, man.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother and a wife. Now, shall we return to reality? It's a neurological disorder caused by a lack of vitamin B in the brain. Symptoms include a retrograde amnesia. It's quite serious. You should get yourself checked out. Well, it's either bariatric surgery or long-term alcohol use.
She nods slowly.
Some sort of krill hunter? No, wait. You're an ancient ruin, a symbol of hubris and decay, half submerged in some salty sea. Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games. Ah! This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two. A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveau. They're old. This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall, a real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course. Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat.
You could be wrong, but from here it appears as if she's running the brush across her throat in a soaring motion.
Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags. Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture. Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture. Young people who dye their hair funny colors and wear old people's clothes are stupid, and their little rebellion is self-defeating. All right, what next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the supraculture.
And what would that be? I can see that, yes. I dabble in those dark arts myself, not so long ago. I assure you, it was a thoroughly supracultural phenomenon, all permeating, downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby. Those days are long behind me. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was more of a new girl. Disco was a minor, but still enjoyable facet of the whole thing for me. The new, a cultural era, and the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of post-revolutionary Revachol. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne-colored everything. By the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age. Now, wasn't it Guillaume Le Million who said, "If you can remember the new, you weren't there"? Ah, yes. This is not very central to reality, is it? I can't be 100% sure, but I believe he died due to complications from venereal disease. All of them. I'm afraid no. But then again, one can't be entirely sure. It's all part of his mystique. Ask someone else and you may get a more champagne-colored take. Anyway, what other basic facets of reality should we discuss? Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else? Word has traveled, yes, but nothing of real substance has surfaced yet, I gather. Wild Pines has eyes on the intersection, but not ears.
One of the tall buildings overlooking the roundabout. It would give them a read on the entire quarter.
It appears we are being monitored every step we take, colleague. Did we have any other business here?
More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Glad to have been of assistance.
Jamais vu. Derealization. Jamais vu. The opposite of déjà vu. Not already seen, but never seen. Everything that should be familiar appears strange and new, like some half-forgotten day in your childhood. Only now. That's the feeling you've been having. And for who knows how long. You should go and ask Joyce Messier about this. What world are we in? This is a fundamental question. ruination has come. The broken arches betray the once grand history of this building. It towered over the harbor until it happened. A great force from the northeast fired into the city. Heavy artillery shelled the coastline, fired from the water, a straight shot into Revachol. The tenement acted as a defensive wall against the worst of the shelling until it was destroyed, and they had a direct firing line. The waves of the Martinez Inlet roll over the fallen remains of the building. The dark waters obscure the better part of the remains. What didn't fall into the ocean was used as scrap. What wasn't used as scrap was thrown into the ocean. Those arches acted as support for something greater than what you see now. Only 3 stories stand where 9 to 12 once did. Restoration has failed. What the shelling took out was never rebuilt. A fleet, the combined armies of Occident and Grad, with Mesk volunteers, a 5-nation army, hundreds of vessels. They massed airships further down in the Bay of Revachol. The artillery was so powerful. The ships not only required gyroscopic stabilization, they were anchored into the ocean floor as well. Many are still there to this day. If you squint, you can just barely see the shadow on the water, far in the northeast. Cannons still ready to placate Revachol. Coalition warship Archer can shoot 50 shells a minute on 20 co-aligned archers. They will reach the city in 58 seconds.
The coalition. But that was a long time ago. I think we should move on. It's chilly up here.
The piggies have learned how to saunter up staircases. I didn't think you could do that with hooves, but here you are. Yeah, I can see that. Cool mutations.
That smell coming from her paint bucket, it's not paint. It's heavy fuel oil. Red-dyed heavy fuel oil is only used in government vehicles, or at least that's the idea.
What did you think I was using? Aquarels? Sucked it out of a cop's fuel tank myself, back in Jamrock. Something to think about next time you're driving around in your pretty little piggy carriage.
Yes?
Give me a moment. Ask away, policeman. Oh, no.
You hear someone walking around inside, rearranging the furniture. The number on the panel says 10. You have plenty of reason to enter. Well, that was easy.
That was smart.
Satisfied? My name is Marielle Charpentier, and I'm an agent with Martinez Realty Associates. I am not breaking in, as I have every right to be here. The keys, see?
Boy, there are a lot of different keys there. More than 20 at least.
Do you want to see my ID as well? You can't legally ask for it, but why not? Want to see my residence permit too?
It feels flimsy in hand, with the words Revachol Zone of Control written under a nondescript municipal logo. There's a picture of her with shorter hair inside, along with all her personal details.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I need to be back in Midtown in an hour. I need to get it ready for the next lease, but as you can see, the previous tenant completely trashed the place. It was some kind of a moribund old man who used to be a business owner. You'd think they'd make rent.
A sudden serious look crosses her face. This story didn't have a happy ending.
But that was months ago. Anyway, was there anything you wanted, or is that it? I'm in a hurry. Oh, that's another huge mess. The former tenant owes us 3 months of rent. 3. We closed the apartment and planned on auctioning off the valuables, but... And again, I have no idea how stupid mistakes like this can even happen. But Ron, when he came to close the door, didn't close the neighboring door. And there's a hole in the wall. A hole in the wall. Can you believe it? And then the tenant ran off with his stuff. He's gone. The money's gone. Just like that.
The sum must have been puny.
Well, it does not disappear from my hands. No, I don't let it. These apartments are perfectly fine. They have gorgeous architecture, a million-real view of the bay, good ventilation, neighbors, life, spark. and they are affordable. I'll tell you, Martinez has a future. In a few years, it's going to blossom with artists and creatives and those radio computer wizards. Don't ask me what happened with the wall. I have no idea how we're going to find the time or resources to fix it. Both apartments are now unrentable. Both. Of course.
This door has been closed with a padlock. A chalk-drawn number on the board says, number 11.
Give me a moment. I see. I hope some good people are finally going to move in. This place needs them. Yes, well, I hope they're good people.
Your statements are too vague to comment on. What's this? We're getting reports of normal, reasonable, temperate, political opinions somewhere in Martinez. The air suddenly feels calmer, more transparent in a strangely tender way. Perhaps it's the hangover. Perhaps it's a temporary surge of serotonin. But something tells you. It's time to become a citizen of the Kingdom of Conscience. It is not a place. It is a moment in time that can only arise in the right circumstances. In all of human history, it's only been achieved a handful of times. Incrementally, history's greatest catastrophes have been brought about by people trying to make the world a better place too quickly. That's the genius of Dolores Day. She recognized that progress is meaningless if its gains are lost because of instability. Real, lasting change can only come about gradually, increment by increment. Tisk tisk, just because you live in the present doesn't mean you have the right to place your needs above the needs of the future. You may never live to see the Kingdom of Conscience. Your children may not. Even your grandchildren might not. But that's no excuse not to keep working. What rationality? What sang-froid? Do you believe the status quo is preferable to chaos and bloodshed? Then you've never lived through real chaos. Sometimes, in the face of great disaster, defending the status quo is progress. The kingdom is difficult to comprehend and even more difficult to describe. Partly because humanity will need to discard many of the categories that define and limit it today. The Kingdom of Conscience is post-capitalist, post-national. It's also post-industrial, post-ideological, and even post-sexual. Slow down, Mr. Reasonable. Did you miss the part about compromising and taking things slow? That's right. Remember, real democracy is just around the corner for Revachol. When that real democracy kicks in, a long time from now, we are all going to be so much happier. This door has been closed with a padlock. A chalk-drawn number on the board says, number 11. What are you doing? You're trying to cut the body of the lock with the chain cutters, and it's really not working.
I believe it's the shackle you need to cut, Detective. Perhaps you should give it another go.
The shackle snaps like a twig, and the lock falls to the floor with a little thud. It should be possible to enter now.
After you, Detective.
A plaster cast bust depicts a middle-aged man with impressive sideburns. The name on the plinth reads Kraz Mazov. Honestly, he does kind of look like you after all.
The white star, the photos on the wall. I think we have broken into the apartment of a young communard. How fitting. Hold on a second. Is this why you broke in here? To find out whether you're Krasmazov? Sure you are. Well, you both do seem to share an affinity for sideburns, but it seems like old Kras here didn't drink nearly as much as you. Very well. Let's look for identifying features then. Doesn't he have a birthmark right here? What about you? Alright, but here's the big thing. Krasmazov looks Samaran, and you don't. Okay, you win. Be Krasmazov then, I don't care. Why are you so hell-bent on proving that you're Krasmazov anyway? I think you have misunderstood who he was, but if you say so. He was definitely controversial. The tenant here seems to like him. There aren't many communists around, not after the revolution. Some youth still keep the ideology going, it seems. I suspect that's exactly what they are trying to do. There aren't many communists around, not after the revolution. Some youth still keep the ideology going, it seems. Whoever lives here definitely shares your enthusiasm. There aren't many communists around, not after the revolution. Some youth still keep the ideology going, it seems.
That isn't just a five-pointed star. It's an inverted white pentagram cradled in a wreath of antlers, the iconography of communism, in other words. The star and antlers was developed in the 6th decade of the last century and quickly adopted by Mazov and the communards during the revolution. Even today, half a century after, the star and antlers retains the ability to evoke hope, disappointment, and fear in equal measure. To symbolize the toppling of the old order. Also, some social democrats were already using it. The wreath of antlers represents a natural crown. It was about building a society that could exist in accord with the natural world, and at the same time above it. Because white is the color of peace. Gone is the glory of hope. Only the scribblings of impoverished students remain in dirty hallways. You are the big communism builder now. It's you or no one.
Give me a moment.
This door is made of metal and appears to be reinforced. Someone here really values their security. Number 28. This is where the cleaning lady said the smoker on the balcony lives.
Let's see if anyone's home.
No one answers.
Looks like the young man we are looking for isn't home. I think our best chance to catch him is in the evening. We should return tonight after we have finished with our day's work. How about 9 p.m.? Sound good? Tonight at 9 p.m., right here, apartment number 28. Good. Let's...
This coin-operated viewer is facing south. It has given up all its secrets. This seems...
This is where you say you're been.
Detective.
Hey, dipshit. You hard of hearing or something? The boss man's talking to you.
Do not let their squeals disturb your serenity. These are but simple peasants, sire.
Oh, this is about him. A real looker, that one.
You're sure taking your time, waiting for him to get ripe and pretty for you, huh?
Oh, he was a real pretty boy by now. Real hot stuff. Letting out that pretty boy smell.
Time to go to work in the shit factory!
Easy, boys. These janitors have a hell of a job cut out for them. I mean, I wouldn't go in there for $1 million.
You might want to start asking your questions now. It's not going to get better than this.
Do a head count first. Connect these men to the tracks you saw in the yard. Chances are they're going to match. Starting from the right, boot size 44, blonde man, in his 30s, overbearingly masculine. Sitting on his right, standard working boots, size 45 or 46, eldest in the room, probably mid-50s, smoker, quiet. Across at the other table, hobnailed working boots, size 43, gang tattoos, Mesk or Sarah Mauritian, in his late 30s, early 40s. He spent his youth in Villa Labos, a housing project in the Jamrock Quarter. There were incarcerations, hard to say what else. The ink is fading. And then, standard working boot, steel reinforced toes, size 46, the big dick, wide at the shoulders and lean at the hips, rugby cap, fingerless gloves, and numerous scars, a little under 40. The emblem on his vest says Rowing Club. A little patch below it reads T. Hardy, Captain. In the far corner, standard working boot, steel reinforced toes, size 44, 40-something, non-alcoholic beverage in hand. You squint. Is that a plectrum? On his neck. Forget it. It's not important. Let's call this one the musician. Size 41, with the light step. Not a child, after all. An older man with a rat face, mean, watery eyes, and 2 front teeth missing. In the middle, heaving and wheezing, big guy, boot size 46, deep marks, probably carried the victim over. He alone is 130 kilos. Add the man in armor, and you could easily exceed 220. In conclusion, these 7 are the actors on the crime scene. The footprints were theirs, but there's a discrepancy. Exactly. You've stood there for about 4 seconds, not saying anything. Hit them with questions. Where's the 8th Hardy?
The fuck is with you, fella? What are you talking about, madman? There's no 8th Hardy boy. There's 7 of us and we're all here. Or what? You want to be the 8th Hardy boy? We ain't hiring.
Actually, boss, we've been talking and we think she could maybe...
She? So there's an 8th Hardy and it's a Hardy girl? Who might it be? Elizabeth? The gardener?
Shut the fuck up, Glenn!
It has to be good, if he won't let you pursue it. Looks like the lieutenant thinks so, too.
So let me get this straight. There is an 8th Hardy boy. It's a she, and you don't like us talking about her?
That's right. We're not talking about this. This is a private Hardy Boys matter. Nothing to do with your shit. And you're not cops here. Don't go digging around if you don't want a bullet in the back of your head. I'm watching you.
Good. We are all watching each other. Officer, your question.
There's no point in pushing it further, he thinks. This is already a victory. We'll learn more about this 8th Hardy sooner or later.
The pretty boy. You guys really love talking about that pretty boy.
Funny. But my partner and I have a serious matter to discuss with you.
You mean these boots? We all got a pair. We wore them the night we took the pretty boy out back and hung him by the neck. Yeah, we did this. Together. All of us. Until he was dead. That's why our prints are all over the scene.
There's a catch hidden somewhere. He didn't confess so that you could take them all away. It's too simple.
There is no catch. These 7 honest men have all equally come forth to tell you what happened, so that you don't waste any more of your time.
All 7 together. They're diluting responsibility. It's an anti-arrest tactic.
Why? 'Cause he was worthless mercenary scum. And he stepped out alive in my town. And he stepped out alive.
What kind of mercenary?
The kind that shows up when you start a strike. The experienced kind, too. Had Cohoy and Semenine written all over him. Ex-Oranese.
A live grenade. Right here in our bar.
I can't prove it. But I know he was sent by the Wild Pines. They hire merc shit like that. Story of every strike from here to Samara.
Cause one night, he walked straight up to the mic and said, I'm Oranese goddamn special forces, and I'm gonna fuck you all!
Really?
Yeah, really. Had a gin and tonic up there, sang some Oranese paratrooper song, and said he's gonna fuck everyone.
We couldn't believe it either, but he fucking did, right there. Like some kind of animal.
Sire, the tale is true. This is a serious violation of the karaoke code.
Wrong. He harassed women, raped one, harassed workers, threatened to kill some as a warning.
From rape to harassment to threats of violence. Why the strange de-escalation?
To kill us all if we don't